12 years ago, the Blake family dining room stretched before me like a courtroom. The mahogany table gleamed like a mirror. Sterling silver candlesticks reflected tiny flames. Father sat at the head, Mother to his right, Lucas across from me with his perpetual sneer. The same hierarchy we'd occupied for 22 years, never changing. "Well then, Marin," Father said, folding his napkin with precision. "Let's see this grand idea of yours. Lucas mentioned you've been working on something." I placed my leather portfolio on the table. My hands were steadier than expected. One day after graduating from NYU, 2 degrees, finance and fine arts, and 42 pages of meticulously crafted business plan. This is a digital platform that connects artists directly with buyers. No middlemen, no galleries taking 40% commission. "Another art website?" Lucas interrupted, reaching for his wine. "There are dozens already." "This is different," I said, showing them the charts. "Existing platforms treat artists like inventory. Mine treats them as partners." I launched into my pitch. A searchable marketplace, commission structures that benefit creators, authentication protocols, AI-driven pricing algorithms that balance market rates with fair compensation. With each slide, my words became more fluent, my passion more evident. "This art nonsense doesn't generate profit." Father's hand cut through the air. The words struck like a judge's gavel delivering final judgment. I stared at him, breathless. "Did you look at the projections?" "In 5 years." "Honey," Mother touched my wrist. "Wouldn't you be happier working at your father's company?" "Lucas loves it there." "She's too sensitive for real business," Lucas added with false concern. "Come back with a real business plan, sis." "This is a real business plan." I turned to the financial projections. 5 years of revenue forecasts charted meticulously. I've identified market gaps, established differentiating factors, calculated customer acquisition costs. That art degree really scrambled your brain, Lucas chuckled. Father leaned back, drumming his fingers on the mahogany. "What exactly are you asking for?" I met his gaze directly. $1 million for 20% equity. Silence. Then the laughter began. It started with Father, a sharp bark that became a full-bellied roar. Lucas joined seconds later, shoulders shaking. Even Mother hit her mouth, poorly disguising her smile. $1 million. Father wiped his eyes. "For a website where people sell drawings?" "Marin, are you insane?" I gathered my papers with numb fingers. The room tilted slightly, breakfast rising in my throat. "No," Father said, still sounding amused. "Absolutely not. Not worth considering. I won't invest in fantasy. We're trying to help you, Marin." Mother's voice dripped with the condescension she reserved for family charity cases. "You're not business-minded like your father and brother. You need to accept reality." The word "no" echoed in my head during the entire drive to my apartment. That night, I cried in my childhood bedroom. But when I woke the next morning, tears had turned to anger, to determination. I would prove them wrong. Cardboard boxes surrounded me, each labeled with thick black marker: kitchen, books, winter clothes. The Queen's apartment lease lay signed on my desk. 400 square feet, $900 a month, a bathtub with questionable stains. Everything my savings could afford. 6 hours later, I unlocked the door to my new life. The apartment smelled of old cigarettes and cheap paint. But I smiled. For the first time, this was a place I could truly call my own. I unpacked my laptop first, setting it up on a cardboard box. When the business plan file opened on screen, it seemed to glow with possibility. "They think I'll fail," I whispered to the empty room. "I'll prove them wrong." That night, I wrote my first code. Starting with basic HTML pages, simple forms where artists could upload their work. It wasn't beautiful, but it worked. The microwave's red numbers showed 3:47 a.m. I'd been hunched over code for 18 hours straight. eyes burning, back screaming. But the platform framework was alive. A week later, miracle struck. My first sale. A Brooklyn painter sold a digital print for $90. After fees, my cut was $9. Not enough for groceries that week, but worth something far more valuable. Proof. I framed that $9 and hung it on my wall, labeled First Profit. But reality was harsh. At a Starbucks near Grand Central, I defended my corner table like a battle station. Spreadsheets fanned out like war plans. Preparing for my 5th investor meeting this week. 27 rejections. The 28th investor, salt and pepper hair, Brooks Brothers suit, checked his watch while I explained growth projections. Interesting concept, he said, closing my folder before reaching the financials. But the market seems limited. The rejection letter hit my inbox before I got back to Queens. I pinned it with the other 27 on my wall. Neat rows of unfortunately at this time, and not suitable for our portfolio. But I didn't give up. The 29th investor was waiting. And the 30th. 3 years later, things began changing gradually. The platform had reached 1,000 registered artists. Monthly sales hit $3,000. I graduated from instant ramen, could occasionally buy real vegetables. A small midtown office. Proud of its water-stained ceiling tiles and temperamental heating, but I could afford to hire 5 employees. I no longer flinched signing rent checks. I ate a proper dinner at my desk while scrolling through user testimonials. Last week, I made my first sale through your platform. Something I've dreamed of for so long. Portland ceramicist, thanks to commission work. I could quit my day job. Chicago illustrator, I found clients in Europe. Never thought my work would travel to places I've never been. Austin photographer, each message warmed my heart. This was what I wanted to do. Empower artists, give them opportunities to make a living from their talents. But my family didn't know. Lucas's promotion party invitation arrived by mail, but I didn't attend. Instead, I spent time on bug fixes and user support. My absence was carefully explained. Marin's creative pursuits keep her so busy. Creative pursuits. Hobby. Waste of time. If only they knew I worked 16 hours daily, turning their ridiculed art site into real business. But I stayed silent. It wasn't time yet. A knock interrupted my concentration. Katie from accounting stood in my doorway, one of 15 employees now in our expanded office. An advertising agency called, she said, trying to suppress a smile. They want exclusive rights to 20 artists for a new campaign. Pretty big deal. Which agency? Larson & Pine. I sank deep into my chair. Larson & Pine, the agency that rejected my application for a junior design position 3 years ago. Insufficient experience, they'd said. Now they were coming to my company as clients. I leaned back, allowed myself 5 seconds of satisfaction, then nodded. Send them the premium client contract. And quote 15% above standard rate. Reason? If they really want it, they should pay accordingly. By this time, the platform had reached 10,000 artists. Monthly revenue, $500,000. 25 employees. But I maintained my silence. Family group chats buzzed with Lucas's promotions, father's new investment deals, mother's charity activities. My name rarely came up. When it did, just light mentions. Marin's still obsessed with that hobby. I never reported my progress. Vague responses sufficed. Going well, keeping busy. Why hide it? Partly revenge. But more than that, I wanted to build unshakable foundation. Undeniable, complete success. Success on a scale they could never laugh at again. Sometimes, working alone in late-night offices, I remembered that night 12 years ago. Father's laughter, mother's contemptuous look, Lucas's sneer. I won't invest in fantasy. But now my fantasy supported thousands of lives. Generated millions in revenue. No longer fantasy, but reality. Late at night in my office, I scrolled through financial news. Routine market research for analyzing platform growth curves. 60 employees now, 20 million in annual revenue. A headline caught my eye. Blake Investment Group faces liquidity crisis. Industry shaken, time stopped. Father's company. The legacy he built over 30 years. The article was detailed. Unexpected client fund withdrawals, leverage problems, 200 employees potentially losing jobs by month's end. My hands shook. However much I resented father, he was still my father. And 200 families were about to become victims of his management decisions. The family group chat buzzed with emergency meeting details. Serious situation. Considering all options. Family unity needed. My name was never mentioned. They never even considered asking for help. That night, I gathered company documents, industry reports, every piece of publicly available information. The financial picture became clear. $5 million shortfall. Not insurmountable with the right investor, but traditional banks were too slow. Private equity would demand control. Father didn't have time. I called my chief legal counsel, Lisa, to him, but she answered immediately. I need to establish a shell company tonight. For the Milan art acquisition? No, different type of acquisition. And Lisa, keep this completely confidential. Tell no one. Within 48 hours, Meridian Capital Partners was born. A company existing only in my lawyer's filing cabinet. 3 days later, Blake Investment Group announced salvation. $5 million in bridge financing from an anonymous investor. Perfectly structured deal, reasonable interest rates, generous repayment terms. The confidentiality agreement was ironclad. No contact between lender and Blake Investment Group beyond quarterly payment confirmations. I allowed myself a satisfied smile. Father would never know that the daughter he despised had saved his life's work. That profits from the business he called fantasy had protected his company and 200 families' livelihoods. Relief flooded the family group chat. Miraculous investor. Thank God. Family unity pulled us through. I wrote nothing. Just watched quietly. This was right. Not revenge. Not even justice. Just doing what was right. But someday they would know the truth. Until then, I would wait. A cream-colored envelope lay on my glass desk like an indictment. The annual Blake family gathering invitation. And those unbearable questions waiting. When will you get a real job? Still wasting time on that hobby art site? Now my company had an $8 billion valuation. 120 employees. 120,000 artists worldwide making their living through our platform. Museums in 4 countries displayed digital art we'd authenticated. A sharp knock rattled my office door. Come in. Diane burst through, iPad clutched her chest, eyes wide. 3 years as my executive assistant, but I'd never seen her run. Ms. Blake, Forbes just announced their next cover. My world froze for a moment. 5 minutes ago. It's already trending on Twitter. She turned the iPad toward me. My professional headshot, reluctantly approved for investor materials, stood out against Forbes' iconic red background. Marin Blake, the quiet power behind an $8 billion creative tech platform. My hands trembled as I took the iPad. 12 years of careful anonymity shattered by a single headline. Who leaked it? Sources from last month's Series D investors, according to the reporter. I considered the implications. Father's investment company colleagues all subscribed to Forbes. Lucas probably had industry news alerts set up. Mother's friends devoured business gossip. 30 minutes later, my office was a battlefield. WSJ wants an exclusive interview. CNBC is offering a TV appearance. About your family. Your father's company issued a press release 15 minutes ago. Diane showed me the iPad. My photo was newly added to Blake Investment Group's website, described as a proud family member. 12 years of distance were written in an instant. My phone started ringing. Daily calls from father, long voicemails from mother, sudden praise messages from Lucas. Always knew you were amazing. The truth I'd hidden for 12 years was finally exposed. The game had changed. Now it was time to fight by my rules. The Thanksgiving invitation had sat on my kitchen counter for 2 weeks. Since the Forbes article, family contact had been like a flood. Tonight, I finally decided to respond. I drove my Tesla up their winding Greenwich driveway. Emerald silk blouse, Dior jacket, vintage Cartier watch. Understated but unmistakable expressions of success, contrasting sharply with the poverty I'd performed at previous gatherings. Mother greeted me at the door. Her smile was brighter than usual, slightly unnatural. "Marin, darling." Her embrace was longer and stronger than before. Everything must be so busy after the Forbes article. Father appeared at the entrance. Instead of his usual stern expression, there was a new kind of carefulness. Calculated respect. "Marin," he extended his hand. A handshake, not his usual dismissive nod. "I'm proud, really." Lucas emerged from the living room, his once arrogant features mixed with humility. "Baby sister," he said, but without the old condescension. $8 billion, really? That's the valuation, I replied. But a company's value isn't just numbers. "I read about your student artist fund program," Mother said with genuine interest. "How do you select recipients?" This was new. Actual questions about my work. Not superficial interest, but effort to understand. "I want to talk about something before dinner," I said. The family fell silent. "I think it's time we discuss these 12 years frankly." The dining room was as luxurious as always. But tonight, my seat wasn't relegated to the side. "Let's start with that night 12 years ago," I said before appetizers were served. Father's fork stopped midway. Lucas's wine glass froze at his lips. "That night, I presented my dream to you. A data-driven, well-crafted business plan. What I got was mockery." "Marin," Mother tried to interrupt. Mom, let me speak." My voice was calm but authoritative. I placed a leather folder on the table. "This contains records from the past 12 years. Every comment you made about my hobby art site. Every suggestion that I should be realistic." Father's face paled. "But I'm not bitter. Actually, I'm grateful. Your rejection made me stronger, more determined." I stood up. "Now my company is worth $8 billion. 120,000 artists worldwide make their living through our platform. Only the sound of silverware touching crystal was audible. But most importantly, I proved myself. Not to you, but to myself." Father finally found his voice. "Marin, I know you regret it," I said gently. "And I accept that. But we can't change the past." I took another envelope from my handbag. 3 years ago, do you remember when Blake Investment Group faced a financial crisis? A mysterious investor appeared with a $5 million bridge loan to save the company. Father's eyes widened. That was me. The room's air became electric. Meridian Capital Partners is my shell company. I saved your company. Protected 200 families as livelihoods. Anonymously, without seeking gratitude. Mother's wine glass slipped from her hand. Red wine bloomed like flowers on the white tablecloth. Why? Father's voice was a whisper. Because you rejecting me doesn't mean I abandon you. We're family. Silence continued. Then Father spoke first. You're a bigger person than us, Marin. Tears swelled in his voice. I was foolish. We all make mistakes, I replied. What matters is learning from them. The sound of silverware clinking against crystal cut through dinner chatter. Father stood, raising his glass high. I want to say something important tonight. The table immediately quieted. 3 years ago, Blake Investment Group faced a crisis that nearly destroyed us. Then, when all seemed lost, a mysterious investor intervened. $5 million transferred overnight. My throat tightened. Confidentiality agreements prevented me from knowing who this angel investor was. He raised his glass higher. But whoever you are, you saved 200 families. We are eternally grateful. The following silence felt electric. That was me. My voice rang clear across the table. Father froze, glass still raised. I looked directly into his eyes. For the first time in my adult life, my family was truly seeing me. 1 month later, spring sunlight streamed into my corner office. Since Thanksgiving dinner, family relationships had been carefully rebuilding. Weekly phone calls, monthly lunches, genuine interest in each other's work. The intercom buzzed. Miss Blake, 2 gentlemen are here without appointment. They say they're family, but seem to be preparing an investor presentation. My stomach clenched. Names Richard Blake and Lucas Blake. Father and Lucas. Coming to my office as investors. I took 3 deep breaths. Show them to the blue room. Tell them someone will meet with them in 15 minutes. Through my office's glass walls, I watched Father and Lucas follow my assistant. Their eyes swept the modern workspace, 60 employees on this floor alone. Industry awards lining quarter of the walls. I texted my Marcus. Family emergency blue room need eyes 20 minutes later. Marcus reported. They have pitch deck. Looking for MB Capital investors. Obviously nervous. MB Capital, my investment division. They didn't realize I owned it. Seeking $2 million in seed funding for art licensing platform. Your father keeps emphasizing sure investment. Sounds like he's trying to convince himself. Art licensing platform. Irony burned cold in my chest. 12 years later, they were pitching me the same idea. I'll handle it. When I opened the blue room door, the room fell silent. Father half stood from his seat. Lucas froze mid-explanation. I took the head chair, the one they'd reserved for their imaginary investor. Gentlemen, I said, smoothing my skirt. I understand you're here to pitch me. Father slowly sank into his seat. Marin, Father recovered first. I didn't realize MB Capital was yours. Obviously. I gestured toward their presentation still projected on the wall. Please continue. I'm interested in your concept. I read the title slide. Artworth, a next-generation art licensing platform. Father leaned forward. We've been developing this concept for months. Market research shows significant growth potential in digital art licensing. We're seeking $1 million in seed funding for an anticipated 20% equity stake. Exactly what I'd asked from him 12 years ago. I opened the leather portfolio before me. Impressive. I've been considering similar proposals in this space. Hope lit their eyes. I slid a folder across the table. Before proceeding, I wanted to share relevant background information. Father opened it. Inside were printouts of every dismissive email, every family dinner conversation mocking my small art project. 12 years ago, you said I wasn't business-oriented. My voice remained conversational, neither bitter nor triumphant. You said digital art platforms would never be profitable. Father's fingers hovered over printouts of his own emails. Today, you're pitching your dreams to me, I continued. And I'm saying no. Lucas started to protest, but Father stopped his arm. I helped you once, I continued. That was for the employees. 200 families who shouldn't suffer for management mistakes. I stood up. I am not your safety net. Not anymore. Marin, Father's voice lacked its usual authority. We're family. Yes, I agreed. We are. And this time, you're doing it yourselves. I walked toward the door, then paused. The weight of 12 years of silence finally lifted from my shoulders. Good luck with your venture. I turned back. Diane will show you out. My corner office glowed with morning light. On my desk lay spring art grant selection results. This year we distribute $5 million to 1,000 emerging artists. The grant committee is waiting for your final approval, Diane said from the doorway. Tell them it's perfect. Last night, I hosted my executive team at my real home, a bright Tribeca loft. We drank good scotch and talked until midnight. These people who believed in me when blood relatives wouldn't bet a cent. They are my chosen family. The weight of pretense lifted, leaving me lighter than I'd felt in 12 years. My closet no longer contained costumes, only clothes reflecting the woman I'd become. A cream envelope sat on my desk with my father's law firm letterhead. This time, I opened it without hesitation. My father's handwriting. I was wrong. You proved not only that we were wrong, but that you were right. I've spent 30 years identifying potential, but I missed it sitting across from me at my own dining table. Your mother and I want to know the daughter we failed to see. My hands trembled. Outside, Manhattan continued its endless motion. In my private workshop, I found a simple black frame. The letter slipped next to another document, the first email rejection from my father's assistant. Mr. Blake regrets that he cannot fund your project at this time. 2 bookends to a journey I never planned. Thanksgiving came again. This time, I attended without hesitation. Mother greeted me at the door. You're glowing, she said with heartfelt interest. Father stood at the entrance, genuine pride in his eyes. Lucas approached carefully. This past year had taught him much. Your latest acquisition was brilliant. We sat in the dining room. This time, my seat was at the family center. I'd like to propose a toast, Father stood, to this family's true success story, to Marin. But for me, the most meaningful moment came afterward. After dinner, Mother called me to the garden. Marin, her voice trembled. I was the worst mother. For 12 years, I couldn't see your success. But what hurts most is that you carried everything alone. I'm proud of you, really. And I'm sorry. The first unconditional praise and apology I'd ever heard. I hugged her. The first genuine embrace in 12 years. Returning to the room, I saw them with new eyes. These blood relatives trying to adapt to truth instead of comfortable fiction. I caught my reflection in the antique mirror that had hung in the dining room since childhood. The woman looking back stood straight, unburdened by secrets or others' expectations. Success wasn't about revenge. It was about finally being seen for who I really was. The phone rang Monday morning. Father calling. Marin, how are you? Good morning, Dad. Everything's going well. I have something to ask. My investment group is starting a mentor program for young entrepreneurs. Would you consider participating? I smiled. Change is always possible. I'll think about it. After hanging up, I looked down at New York from my window. Somewhere, a young artist was trying to upload their first work. Somewhere, a dreamer might be told, impossible. I'm here for them. What would my 22-year-old self say if she could see this moment? That rejected, tear-stained girl from that night 12 years ago? She'd probably say, thank you for not giving up. We proved we don't need anyone's approval but our own. I opened my laptop. Time to review applications from new artists. Time to give the next generation of dreamers their chance. The cycle continues. But now I'm the one opening doors. This is the end of our story about Marin Blake, a tale of quiet determination, patient justice, and the power of believing in yourself when no one else will. Sometimes the greatest victories aren't won with grand gestures, but with the steady, persistent refusal to give up on your dreams.